Shalom, Most High, Christ bless. Officer Kimmy Well with Israel United Christ Orlando. And I'm here with
Earlene, Evelina, Jackson, Patterson, Kirkland.
okay, of Royal, Florida.
Arroyo, Florida.
Okay, so this your home?
This is my home.
Okay, all praises. So we came here to Royal because this is like a homecoming day, correct?
Yes. It's always start on June, Father's Day, the weekend leading up to Father's Day.
Okay. And can you give us a little background about what happens here?
Well, when I was growing up, it's a little bit different now, but when I was growing up, we always had two churches in Royal, which was the Methodist and the Baptist. And we always switched Sundays from year to year, one at the Baptist and one at the Baptist, the Methodist, I'm sorry. And we always cooked dinner on the ground, and all the families whose children went out of the Royal community would come back on that weekend and celebrate homecoming, because they had went away to find jobs.
So the homecoming that she's referring to this is a community that was established by the 40 Acres and the Mule, correct?
40 Acres and the Mule.
And we know as that was rescinded, this is still one of the few communities in America that the people have retained their 40 acres and a mule.
Yes.
That's a piece of history that a lot of our people have no understanding of. That you guys live.
Right. That's correct.
So some leave, but you always come back.
Come back.
Yeah.
Yes. Always come back. And it's good, because when I left and, went overseas in different places, and I always want to come back, because this is my home, and I want to come back and impart knowledge, what I've learned away. But sometimes people don't want to.
Right.
You can't, force them. But it's good to go since I've been back, because I didn't know about the 40 acre and the mule,
Right.
but we had property,
Right.
but how it got. But after Beverly came back and began to do investigation and research, we all know about the 40 acre and the mule.
Oh, praise.
So, and I still live on the homestead.
We are standing right now in the cafeteria
That's correct.
of the original school.
Of the original school.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is history. I.U.I.C. is in the community. We are traveling. We are finding out the history of our people, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And you know what, man? It means you are the Israelites of the Bible. We are the Israelites of the Bible. And this is a beautiful moment for us to be able to actually be in the presence of history. 40 acres and a mule. We read about it in the history books, but to actually meet somebody that is living witness, it's a beautiful thing. So I want to thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. No problem. I enjoyed it. Nice meeting you all. But what brought me when I stopped is the purple and the gold.
Because you guys wear purple and gold.
Yes. Down through the years, that was our color.
Well, it's the color of royalty.
Yes.
And the name of the town is Royal, so that fits.
So,
He said, as more whites came and the blacks slowly moved away, by the beginning of the war between the states, the clean-blooded blacks were living in long hammock where they felt safe. Clean-blooded meant, to this small group, they were black Africans whose parents were tribal leaders, kings and queens that were killed by rival warring tribes, and their families were marched hundreds of miles and sold into slavery. They were to keep to themselves. Them or their parents had escaped in Spanish Florida. They did not mix blood with Native Americans, white, or any race, and as soon as they could, they or their children intended to someday return home to Africa and retake their family property. It goes on to say that this particular settlement before the war between the states, the Long Hammock settlement of blacks that had first been quietly known as Royalsville, had become known as Pickettsville. Okay? After the war, residents quietly changed its name back to Royal, as is documented by 1880. Okay? First of all, what shocked me was that 1848-49, long before my aunt said the history of the community began, okay, we were already here. What else shocked me was the fact that we were free. Okay? Fifth in my graduating class didn't know that. Of all the history I studied about Florida, they never told me that the slaves that lived in those southern states, Georgia, South Carolina, those states, Florida was run by the Spaniards. Remember, originally it was British. Then it became run by the Spaniards. Well, the Spaniards wasn't interested in slaves. So when they came here, they could join the Spaniards, help fight the Indians, and become Catholic. And we're free. Okay? Well, when we got here, you know, we're resourceful. When it comes, especially when it comes to our freedom, we're resourceful. So we got here, we realized that we didn't have to join the Spaniards. We were free. We could join whoever we wanted. So they joined the Indians, some of them, and became known as, and you'll hear this term more and more now, Black Seminoles. Okay? These free blacks, we feel that was here in this community, was connected to one of the largest Black Seminole tribes here in Sumter County. Okay? It is now in Lake County. Because at one time, Sumter County, Lake County was all Sumter. Lake broke off. Right at the line where they broke off is a little town called Okahumpka. One of the most famous people out of the Okahumpka area is, who's the lawyer that did Brown versus Board of Education? I'll think of it. But Hawkins, Virgil Hawkins. Okahumpka is where Virgil Hawkins is from. Okay? But that used to all be Sumter County. Now, not only that, our first school and church was built in this community in 1874 by Reverend Alfred Brown. Reverend Brown's family is in Okahumpka. I always wondered, how did he get the royal to help us build our first church and school? All right? Connector. Those were free Africans. They were Black Seminole. That tribe of Black Seminoles was actually under the leadership of Chief Micanopy. When you go into Gainesville, you go through Micanopy or Micanopy, however you want to pronounce it. That was Chief Micanopy. If you read up on him, he was notorious. Okay? But they didn't mix blood because they wanted future generations to know. And they named it Royalsville to know that they were from royalty. Since then, I found, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mary Kingsley. Mary Kingsley, her plantation still stands. Mary Kingsley was a slave. Charles Kingsley, British, from London, was buying slaves. He brought Mary. He married Mary. Mary became free because she was married to Mr. Kingsley. Okay? He owned the Jacksonville beaches. So when you go there today, you'll still see Mary Kingsley slave, her house, her plantation, because he built her own house. Yes.
Is that a blue house on the beach?
It's it's on this documentary.
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
It's like a light blue.
Yep.
Yes.
I've seen it on the
Mary
beach.
Kingsley had her own slaves, because as slaves found out that she was free, they would escape and go to her. So and the only way that she could keep them and they could remain free is she had to make them her slaves. Okay? So she had her own slaves, all right? But I never knew when we were brought here that we lived here free before the Civil War. Okay? Now you realize the Civil War wasn't about freeing us, right? Okay, you know that, right? Okay, the Civil War was about money. It was an economic thing, okay? Because the North had their stock market. That was their financial economic vehicle, okay? The South had the slave market, okay? The South wanted the North to pick up the slaves. The North says, we got our stock market, why don't you pick up the stock market, get rid of the slave market, okay? And that's why the battle began, was really over economics. Which one of these markets are we gonna deal with? Are we gonna live with, okay? Slavery was all about money. The whole Civil War was really about which one of these markets, which economic vehicle will become the economic vehicle of this country. That's what it was about. It wasn't about freeing us. So that's what it was, okay? It was about getting rid of the market, all right? The North. So, and since we lost, then we gained our freedom for a short minute, maybe. Are we free?
They're showing that.
I don't say that in my mixed crowds, okay? I say that among y'all.
But for Memorial Day, they said that really wasn't for like the vets and all that. It was for like the slavery. Oh God, how did I read it?
What, Memorial Day? I have to look up on that.
But it's not about what they're trying to portray it as today. It was something to do with slaves in the Carolinas.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, I have to look that up.
I think they said that they had like so many cemeteries there, and like you say, they'll go and replace the heads and
Yes.
stuff like that, and they wanted to make it regularly,
Make it known
Yeah.
about, and so we can remember.
but that day
the
was
ones.
celebrated for that reason, and not for what we're doing it today.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up. I will, because it's interesting how a lot of things really relate back to us. You know, when you think about it in this country, because a lot of things were done to do just that, to stop us. A lot of things were done. I mean, so that tells you the ancestry that we come from. You know, yeah, we were resourceful, we were faithful, we were, you know.
And it was here before Columbus.
Yes, yes. Now, this community, at one time we had a post office. So that book said by 1880 it was called Royal, okay? Well, this is one of the documents that I got from the state when I was doing that historic marker out there. And this is from the Post Office Department, Washington, D.C. And it says, to the postmaster at Royal, Sumter County, we know that's us. Florida, we know that's us. The post office name of the office shall be Royal, okay? It is in Sumter County, state of Florida. The name of the most prominent river near it is the Withlacoochee. We know that's us. The name of the most prominent creek is Jones Creek. We know that's us. The name of the nearest office on that route is Wildwood. We know that's us. Name of the nearest office off of that route is Oxford. We know that's us, okay? Post office, this was signed by Daniel E. Williams, August 15, 1891. It was the Green, I believe the master name was Henry Green, okay? And they came here and settled, and they just used picket type fence, which is more like sticks, to designate this my 40, your 40, and so forth. And then I was sharing with them that when it became Royal, it was in the late 1800s, 1880, 1891. But she didn't know why the name changed from Royal, okay? You heard me mention the 3 founding families. Pickett was one of them. I never knew any Picketts, okay? Well, the story about old man Pickett that used to live in the community is that right after the law was rescinded for the 40 acres, General Sherman did the special field order number 15. That's how we got the 40 acres, but it was just an army law. And it was rescinded when President Lincoln was assassinated, President Johnson rescinded it, okay? So then that's when we lost whatever land we had, and then we became sharecroppers, okay? And that, at that point, that was a part of the, what do they call it? They call it the American Revolution in the Reconstruction area, okay? Right at that time, right at that point when the war, when he rescinded that, Johnson came in as president, Reconstruction, all right? So at that time though, we didn't own the land. All we did was just step the land off and just got on it and homestead, okay? In that Reconstruction period is when the Homestead Act became a part, okay? So that's how we actually got the deeds to the land. So this document here from Dilly Bryant, who's one of our residents, this is the property that we're on, is a copy of a homestead deed or document signed by the governor with his seals on it, okay? And this is just a copy, all right? But it's very rare because some historians came in here and told me they've seen many of them, but they haven't seen them with the seal, okay? So, but this is how we actually got the deed to the land. We didn't get the deed to the land in 1865. We just settled on it, started homesteading it. That's why it was so easy for them to come back and reclaim their land, because we didn't have any legal rights to it, okay? Until we got homestead acts, okay, and got the land that way. Well, what happened is, with the original, Mr. Pickett was one of the original ones that came here. And the story is that there were, during the Reconstruction time, they'll mention night riders, okay? Here in my community, my aunt said that master boys will always be boys, so they used to ride through the community on their horses, running everybody, the chickens, the cows, the hogs, you know, everybody just riding through just like they're crazy, you know. Well, the night riders used to do that. And they used to do that because at that time the night riders would go out scouring the land to see where the land was that the former slaves had that had already cultivated it. Because when they came back to take land back, they wanted to take back the best land, okay? And they would actually ride through, and then they would go back in the night, kill them off or run them off the land, and then reclaim that piece of land, which was theirs from the beginning, but not necessarily, because ones from the north at the end of the war was coming down here also to start getting land, okay? So not necessarily was it their original land, but this is what they did. So the history with us is with old man Pickett is that they said that the master's sons come riding through. Well, I'm thinking it was night riders come riding through, all right? Well, they said a shot rang out one night when they came riding through, and one of master boys was one of them, and was shot dead. And they said old man Pickett was the one that the shot came from. So of course master was looking for him. They hid him in the old oak trees. So, and then eventually he moved and his family moved to Apopka, okay? And I learned that from Reverend Andrews, which was old man Pickett was his grandfather. That's how he said he was from the community. And his grandmother was called Mary Shine. And Mary Shine was one of our first, she was our first midwife. So I knew Mary Shine, I just couldn't make the connection to Pickett. So that was out of the Pickett family. Now, did they need to change the name of the community at that time? Because it was Pickettsville, maybe it was associated with the Pickett, you know, even though it may not have been named after him, but obviously he was one of the prominent families in the community because the state knew that they were one of the 3 families that found the community, okay? So did they need to change the name at that time? I don't know, okay? But then it was changed to Royal, and that was because in 1848, 1849, there was a group of freed Africans that had settled, and where they settled is just Catacorny, right across the end of this community, on the north end of the community up there. And it was a white family. I always knew that white family lived there all my life, okay? And it was the Nichols. They wrote a book about their history. And he says that in 1848-49, that when his family came in, they found a group of freed Africans there. And I didn't even know we were free. I never knew that we could actually come to this country and live free. Out of all the history I ever heard about about Florida, I never knew that we could escape from. So if you have family history where people came from Georgia, South Carolina, places like that, well, they were told on the plantations that if you can walk into Florida, because it was Spanish, Florida didn't become part of the nation, the colonies, until like 1820 or something like that, okay? So, because the Spanish owned it, all right? And then if they could walk into Florida, join the Spaniards, fight the Indians, become Catholic, that was one of the things, because Spanish are Catholic, then they would be free. Well, when our people got here, they realized that they were free once they got into Florida anyway, because Florida wasn't under that law that they had come from. And then some of them joined the Indians and helped fight the Spaniards, okay? And now there's a term out there that's called Black Seminole, and you may hear it, you will hear more of it. And those were the ones that joined the Indians, and they're called Black Seminoles because they didn't mix blood. If you ever find someone that says my history, and there is Dr. Rosalind Howard, I've had her here. She was a professor at the University of Central Florida. She's done a lot of research. So if you want to go online and look her name up, and there's a lot of research that come up about Black Seminoles. Her line is from the Black Seminoles. There's a guy right here in Lake County next to us. His line is Black Seminoles. I've actually had him out in full regalia, and he did have the blue ribbons. Who was telling me about the blue ribbons? Yeah, he did have so in full regalia for the kids, and he talked to them about that Black Seminole line as well. Okay, but we didn't know if that was the reason why they wanted to change the name. But in their book, they said in 1848 they came upon that group of freed Africans, and they had already named it Royalsville in honor of the fact that they were kings and queens in Africa, and they wanted the bloodlines and generations to remember that they came from royalty, okay? And then it was called Pickettsville. So I'm thinking as the whites moved in his book it said as the whites moved into the area that they pushed them out. So I'm thinking maybe around 1865 when they moved in, because when they first moved in, as you get more into his history, he said that his family actually worked with them because they already had, it's right at we're on top of one of the natural aquifers. Florida has these natural streams of water, and we're sitting on top of one of them, okay? So if you can get some of our water out one of these pumps, go ahead. It'll probably be good for you, okay? But, and they were already, one of the heads is right there. And they had already used the stream to get wheels, and they were already grinding corn. They were already established. And this is what's in his book. When his family came in, they found those Africans already established, already set up, already making a life, having a life. They actually taught them how to do what they needed to do to survive here, okay? But he says that as more whites moved in, because that was the Nichols, I know the Crenshaws was over there, trying to remember the Phillips was over there, just on the border, all the way around the border. We have them still today. And their generations come through this community wide open. If you're riding, they'll swing around you and go around you. And I'm thinking, boy, if you only knew what my people taught your people, you know, I want to open up my doors. They're coming around me and go, stop. Let me give you a lesson about where you are, right? But they've always been there. But then he came upon them, and they were called Royalsville. And then later, Pickettsville. So I'm thinking they were pushed maybe in, and the ones from the Green Plantation was pushed in, and at that point was probably when they came together and then decided to call it Pickettsville. You know, after Mr. Pickett, I don't know, after the Pickett-type fence, I don't really know. But the history say after the Pickett-type fence. But after that situation happened, where one of them was killed, then maybe that was when they needed to change the name, okay, from Pickettsville. whether it was named after him or not, but it was still close enough to his name that they may have wanted to change the name. And then it was quietly named back Royal. So, you know.
What time was that time period when that happened? Pickett.
Pickettsville?
Yeah, that whole issue
With
Pickett.
with old man Pickett.
Right.
It was shortly after the community was formed. So it may not have been 1865. It may have been 1867, 68.
Okay.
And that's
At
one of the hard things about gathering the history.
Right.
Because, you know, most of our history is oral. So you don't have a written trail of anything. So you asked me about dates. That's one of the hard things. I'm working on getting the National Historic designation for the community. And the angle that I'm coming from is not any of the buildings, because some of the buildings back then, we don't have them. We just don't have them anymore, you know. But I'm looking at the community, and what I'm using for that reference and for the base of that designation is the land. Okay, the land has been here, we know, since 1865. So I'm getting the designation for, as they call it, I think they call it an aerial designation. So the whole community would become listed on that directory and on that listing in that national registry.
Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us, subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcasts, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.